Good morning. Welcome to Joey Talks Life, our daily devotion. And today we are going to read just the first two verses of Psalm 91. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Now the rest of the psalm goes on to explain that by abiding with God, that he will deliver, he will protect, he will shelter, he will shield David from pestilence, from his evildoers that are coming against him, all of the things that God is going to shield him. And so you can read that, you can go on and read the rest of this psalm for yourself. But this is a very common, popular psalm. So common that I think sometimes we don't stop and think about it. But he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High. Now, if you were here yesterday, we talked about David's desire to dwell in the house of the Lord. This is the thing about the heart of David that I absolutely love and adore, and honor and respect and look up to, is that he was so passionately gripped and consumed by who God was. He knew that God was gracious. He knew that God was compassionate. He knew that God was trustworthy. And the thing is that if we don't know those things instinctively, if we don't know them to our core, we will always have a dysfunctional relationship with God. Imagine being married to someone that you don't trust, that you don't feel like is compassionate, and that you don't feel like is understanding. Like, it's just you're not going to open up your heart very often to them. It's the same way with God. If we have these belief systems or ways of seeing in us that we think God is, just some dictator in the sky that is just waiting for us to do something wrong so he can zap us with lightning, we're not going to trust him, because that's not a very welcoming, trustworthy being. David didn't know God this way. David knew God like a friend. He honored him, he feared him, he revered him, but he knew him like a friend. He knew the heart of God. And so he says, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, he who dwells there, which obviously reminds me of Jesus saying, abide in me and I will abide in you and you'll produce much fruit. This idea of abiding is not passive. It's intentional. I think about, let's put it in plain language, right? Where do we typically abide? If we don't intentionally abide in Christ, we tend to then abide in worry, concern, pride and arrogance, like things that start to define our lives. That's where we start to dwell. Like, we start to get obsessed with our looks. We start to get obsessed with our bank account. We start to get obsessed with the way we appear to our life appears to other people. We become so concerned about our own selves and we begin to dwell there. Well, that dwelling place is destructive. That dwelling place is gluttonous, and it will lead to harm. We end up harming ourselves because we're dwelling in this place of self-protection, self-centeredness, whatever it may be. David is saying that the person who doesn't dwell there, but dwells in the shelter of the Most High. Now, what is shelter? I live in Florida. We have hurricanes. So we have shelters that people can go to if they're displaced. It is a place of safety. It's a place that you can run to when there is tragedy, when there is upheaval, when things are going into utter chaos around you. You can go to a shelter and find a place to sleep, food, get your basic needs met. This is who God is to David. He is his shelter. He is a shelter for his soul, and he wants to dwell there in that shelter. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Again, if you've been around Christianity long enough, a lot of these verses, they just become like Sunday school-esque. Like, they just become rhetoric. They can lose their power and their meaning. When I read this, what I hear is a man who is very aware of how fragile, short, and sensitive life is. He knows that life is not promised, that life throws you curveballs, that life is not just. He knows what it is to be betrayed. He knows what it is to sin against himself, against his family, against God. Like, this is a man who is very aware of his condition, but he knows his shelter. And he knows if he dwells there, that he will find refuge, that God is a fortress. And the same is true for me, and the same is true for you. I don't know about you, but for me, it has been chronic, consistent in my life ever since I was little, that I have always felt very much like just out there on my own, like as if I'm in a little John boat in the middle of the ocean and there's waves coming and I'm like, I got to figure this out somehow, whatever the thing is that's coming at me. And I can feel very alone. I can feel very even abandoned and left to myself to figure out life. And if I stay there, it leads down a very depressive road. But the moment I remember my refuge, my fortress, the one that I can trust in, because trusting in God is trusting in the unseen. It's trusting in what I don't pick up with my five senses. It's trusting in the faithfulness of the character of God. It's trusting in a heart of a father who is loving and compassionate and near to me. Those are the things that can absolutely shield, guard, build a fortress around my soul, even in the midst of life's most chaotic and tragic moments.